So what I think all of this teaches us is a kind of different way of orienting ourselves during times like this, because it means that we don't look for ways out so much as a different way of moving through it. Well, one thing that comes to mind for me is, I teach this church history class every year, and one of my favorite things that we learn about is the martyrs and how they coped with the challenges they were facing at a time when martyrdom was a really horrible thing. I mean, the ways they were being executed and killed, it was, crafted specifically to discourage people from converting to Christianity. And so I'm always really inspired when we come to that section and when I'm reading about the ways that they coped with this reality. So I've been trying to think about them lately and their witness to us, and the ways that they teach us how to deal with hardship and calamity. And what's interesting is the three sort of attitudes they had towards martyrdom. One is, first of all, they saw the willingness to die as Christ died as the kind of marker of a mature Christian faith. So they didn't see this as a matter of God forsaking them. They actually saw, in some strange sense, they saw hardship as a kind of sign that God thought they were ready for it. They saw martyrdom as something like God invites you into. So your baptism is your entrance into a mature Christian faith, your willingness to die as Christ died. And then secondly, because of that belief, they didn't pray for release from trials. They actually prayed for strength in facing the trials, which is a very different way of thinking about hardship than we often think about it. We often pray for hardship to go away or for healing, which I think is fine. I think that God invites us to pray all kinds of things. But what the martyrs show us is that ultimately what we're promised is strength to move through trials. And then third, those who faced martyrdom believe they would be strengthened by Christ in that moment, because Christ suffers with us and helps us to stand firm. So there's this sense that because Christ moved through martyrdom, because Christ understands what it's like to go to the depths of a sense of being forsaken by God, that Christ will be there with us even when we feel that way. So what I think all of this teaches us is a kind of different way of orienting ourselves during times like this, because it means that we don't look for ways out so much as a different way of moving through it. What's really interesting is that by the year 249, when Emperor Decius comes to power, he's actually moved away from pursuing the method of martyrdom as a means of discouraging Christianity, because, ironically, it's proven to actually attract converts to the faith. So I think it's that people saw how well Christians faced death. They saw the peace they had. They saw the confidence they had that God would bring them to new life on the other side of death. And there was such an appeal to people outside of the faith that it actually, motivated conversion, which is another way we could think of, some of us feel trapped at home right now. It feels strange not to be able to be out helping, especially the vulnerable right now. And I think we're all looking for ways we can do that and being creative. And I just think I would want us to also think about ways that we are still also creating a witness in the way that we move through times of uncertainty, times of disappointment, times of wondering about which of our loved ones we might lose or what our future holds. But the way we move through this, the kind of confidence we have and what God holds for us on the other side of it, that confidence itself can be a means of drawing others to Christianity. So a modern day martyr that I return to often, his writings, and he motivates me to try to think along these lines in my own life, is Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who lived from 1906 to 1945. Most people know something about him, but most of us know that he was imprisoned in 1943 by the Gestapo, executed in 1945 at age 39. But what's remarkable about him is the way that he moved through that was, everyone around him noticed that he had a kind of cheerfulness and a kind of optimism with which he went through his day-to-day life in prison. And in the end, his famous last words, right before he was executed, were, "This is the end, but for me, the beginning of life." So we hear there that sense of confidence in the everlasting life that God promises us. But there's a prayer that he wrote that I really love and return to often in my own life when I'm feeling some sense of disappointment or wondering where God is. And so I'll read this and share this with you all. He wrote this in prison not long before he was to be executed. And I think at this point he had heard that he likely would not be getting out. He knew it was likely that he would be executed for his convictions. And he wrote, "O Heavenly Father, I praise and thank you for the peace of the night. I praise and thank you for this new day. I praise and thank you for all your goodness and faithfulness throughout my life. You have granted me many blessings. Now let me also accept what is hard from your hand. You will lay on me no more than I can bear. You make all things work together for good for your children."